Okay, do you see what's on the back of that Volvo right there? If it'll focus. Yes, that is the one and only Volvo 960 I've ever found in this junkyard. I came around the last weekend, I was looking for some things, and I was like a termite in here. I did some reconnaissance. I covered this entire junkyard, so I now know wherever one of these Volvos is, and this Volvo being a 960, those of you in the know, you know what I'm after, because it's there and it's in good shape, but it's something that I want. No, correction, it's something I demand, and I'm not leaving this junkyard without it. So this car, you can see the ranks of junk are closing in on it, and so it's not long before it's going to be put in the crusher, so I have to get what I want out of there, which is worth saving for sure. And by the way, we're in a international truck stronghold right here. We've got one here, and I think there was another one. Let's see, I saw another one of those around somewhere. 2 or 3 of them. I don't know what size engine this is, but this is a good example of a international gas engine from the mid to probably the late 70s, early 80s, something like that, based on the front end of it. But that's one of Retro Chad's, who doesn't come make videos anymore. That's one of his excuse me, it's early in the morning. It's one of his favorites. So back here we got a Ford with probably a 360 or something like that in it, 2-barrel. Hardly ever see 4 barrels, but here this car is, and I'm not sure what year this is, but I've got to try to somehow get this engine block moved away, because I can't get into any of the doors if I don't. This one's up against this truck right here, so I'm not talking real loud, because I don't want people saying, oh, I think talking to himself. Who's he talking to? You talking to somebody? This is really scary. Anyway, okay, I'll follow up on this in a little while. Gotta get busy. Time's a wasting. Alright, here's what I came after. This is the glass moonroof that goes in one of these 960s, a later 960. And this 960 is the same body as a 740, 760, 940, 960 are all the same. V90, S90. So if you find one, it's rare, you better get it, no matter what you have to do it. And I had to suffer for this like I just about suffer for everything I do on a Volvo. You can hear the metal thing over there. That's his front end scoop, I guess. But the way I got this thing out, it's not hard to get out. Just the procedure isn't. It just bolts around the front, so you have to get the headliner down and out of the way and removed. And I had to go hook on this thing to get this headliner. That's what dropped all the water on me. I didn't know it had water up in the headliner, but it did. You ever heard of a headliner holding water? So I had to do that to get to all the bolts, and you just unplug the motor. And everybody on these forums, this says, you just unbolt the motor and take the motor out first. Well, bull crap on that. That motor's got the softest 2 screws holding it on that there is. It ain't coming out. They just strip. Let's just all say this together. Volvo makes some of their stuff out of the cheapest crap they can form something out of. There's no doubt in my mind. So what I had to do is get it all loose, and you pull it up towards the front, the whole assembly. This is called just an assembly, and this is called the tray back here it sits in. And so anyway, I did that, and then when you do, this thing pulls loose. You got 4 drains, 2 in the back, which I broke one of them, looks like. That's no shock there. I'm gonna have to repair that, I guess. Golly, the plastic on these cars is just horrible. It's beyond horrible. If I don't put this in my car, at least I can sell it. So two up at the front. You're looking at towards the front. Anyway, you take all that loose. I couldn't get back there to that. I had to just try to pull it. You can't get these doors open. Anyway, so the whole thing comes down. What I did is I just got it out through the sunroof, and I had to, since that motor wouldn't come off, I had to do a little rolling of this metal piece back here, which I'll have to straighten that back out. I'm not happy about having to do that, but it would not come out of this sunroof opening otherwise. Not with the motor on it. I couldn't get the motor off of it. So that's just how it is. So I'll fix that later and figure out what to do about that sunroof drain there. But so anyway, it's out. So I'm gonna pull a few other things and then excuse me, I'm sorry. I know that you can hear that on the camera, but I don't care. I've been working hard. I'm gonna pull a few other things. I'm gonna pull a light switch out of this, and I'm gonna pull a climate control out of it too. And we're gonna get those small things, and then I'm gonna come back at the last before I get ready to leave and get this sunroof and carry it up there, because this stuff gets heavy, and I gotta go back up to the office and pay for it later. So anyway, I'm already paying for it. Anyway, I was glad to get this. Don't mean to be a sad sack about it. It's just a little tough when you don't have, you know, ideally you're gonna have the doors all open and the windows all down and be able to take a seat out and that kind of thing, but I didn't have that luxury. I had to just do with what I could. So it is out, and save another one, because like I said, this thing is not, you can see the rest of this, it's encroaching in it. So it would have been, if I hadn't saved it, yeah, I'd almost ruined it. If I hadn't saved it, it would have been lost forever. So either me or somebody can have a moonroof now. So let me get busy, guys, again. I'll catch up with you in a little bit. See ya. I tell you, I love this junkyard, but this would be a perfect location for a show called Junkyard Wars. One of those reality type shows that's on everywhere now, man. You could take 4 people in various conditions, you know, have some that are in good shape, maybe young, and some that are older and out of shape and what have you, and give them tools and 4 hours to come out here and pull a list of parts off, and the ones that succeed and get back the quickest with their entire load of parts under their own power wins. And you know, it's like the fat guys in the woods. Usually somebody had to be carried out on a stretcher or break something. You know, I don't wish that on anybody, of course, but that's how it goes. Because this place is the ultimate challenge. I think this is how I've kept my weight down now. It's coming out here walking with this tool pack all the time, and walk. I probably walk a mile in here every time I'm in here. So I got my sunroof taken. I don't know why there's these. I always notice stuff like that. Yeah, sorry for interrupting myself, but I got my sunroof detached and I got it sitting in a secure spot waiting for me to go by and pick it back up. So I'm back over here at the cluster of Volvos, and I'm looking for a sway bar, and I know where to find them. They only, on a 700 series or 900 series, they only come on a turbo sedan in this country. So if you got a non-turbo sedan, you don't have one. If you got any kind of wagon, you don't have one, even if it's a turbo wagon. So I'm gonna look on the lookout, and one thing, I don't believe the one off an independent rear suspension will fit, but I'm gonna double check that on the phone here in a little bit. I've got this one I attempted to pull the climate control module out. Y'all have just seen that video not too long ago, and turned out it was the wrong one. What's that growing in there? Is that cotton? No. So anyway, I'm gonna look under it and see what's under there. I think I may have to have one off a solid rear suspension car, which is a pre-88, I think. We'll find out. See, the sedans went to independent rear suspension at some point, and the wagons did not. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's get at it. Time is wasting. All right then. Well, I just got done extracting this rear sway bar off this Volvo here. Found one that was actually sitting on some wheels, even though I had to risk a Jeep falling on me. Man, it's a war out here in this place. Robert, you got it easy. But anyway, I wanted to show you, this actually came off of this is a 93, 94, 95, somewhere up in there, 740 GLE. And the interesting thing is, despite what I just told you from the experts, it's not a turbo. So, explain that one? I don't know. Okay, no it's not, it's a 91. Purple Heart Services. Check-in date, 123 of 14. 176,000 miles. I think it got hit in the front pretty good. So anyway, I don't know what to tell you, except that how to find one of these is just, I guess, look under the bed of every one of these and you'll find one. But this came off of a car that has, sorry for the junk under here, I don't know if you can even see under there, but it's got a solid axle under it. It's not independent rear suspension. So it has an axle like that Jeep up there has. You can see that. So that's what you want to look for. That's what I suggest. And so should fit right on a wagon, an earlier wagon that's got a solid rear end like mine, and there's a 89 740 over there. It's got the same rear end. So here's how this thing goes on, and this is what you need to pay particular attention to. This is the sway bar, this is front right, this is front left, facing up. This is how it mounts on. It's simply got 3 mounting points. There's 2 bolts under the axle tube that come down, and I've got nuts up to here. I believe they're 16s, 2 here, and then the bolt, lower shock bolt goes through here. It's got a nut on the inside of it on each side. Same deal on each side. That's what you take off to get this thing off of here. Now, here is the very important part. I went over and double checked on that 740 wagon, and the wagons do not have this part right here. So if you make a mistake of saying, I'm just going to take this one nut right here off and this right here off and take it on with me and go put it on, you're not going to, because you left the critical part to it. You have to have this bracket. So be sure you take that. Now, like I said, I went over and looked at that wagon over there, that white one I got the 3rd seat out of. And it already has the bolts coming down with nuts put on it, but there's just no brackets there on it. So that's what I would anticipate if you have a wagon or a sedan that doesn't have one. I reckon these things probably use the same rear ends as 740, but I mean 240, but I'm not sure about that. Anyway, that's what you do to get it. You get it off and be able to reinstall it. So now this is a pretty small bar as far as millimeter size of it, and people say that the turbo cars have a larger rear bar on it, but I'm not gonna worry about it right now because I don't have a bar at all, so this has to be an improvement. So okay then, I'll show you putting this on at home. I've got so many videos to catch up on, it's unbelievable. So okay then, have a good one, guys. Okay, well, as our Pete might say, let's talk about this sunroof a little bit more here. This is, there's me. Anyway, this is the glass sunroof, the moonroof as it is, that came out of that 960 in the junkyard. I just got back from the junkyard, as a matter of fact. And so I wanted to give you maybe a little bit clearer perspective of what the deal is with these and how you use them and things like that. There's always a freaking resident going by in there. Every time I turn the camera on, somebody either comes out or comes by. So anyway, just to tell you more about this and what the 411 is on, I guess. This car has, this is an earlier model car. This is an 88, so it's got a body colored steel sunroof. This means you have to open it up to get any light through it. And it's got a retract and it's tilt. And this is simply a later moonroof. I have a later car. It's just a factory option, so it's just a nice upgrade. It's not hard to do. It takes, I've never done it, but I've read up on it a lot, and it's simply a kind of a, I guess you could say, a drop-in deal, bolt-in deal. You have to replace the entire thing, which means you got what's called a tray, that part right there that looks like a tray, bolts around the perimeter right there around the front. You got the motor, and then you got the the glass moonroof itself that you see outside the car, and then on the inside you have this part here, and then you have the sunshade. Sunshade doesn't work as good when it's tilted the wrong way, but I hate that I had to mess with this tray to get it out, but I was desperate because normally they say you got to take the seats out, at least one of the front seats out, to get it out of a sedan, which that was a sedan, and you have to take the seats, some of the stuff out to get it out. So that wasn't happening in the junkyard. That car, I couldn't even hardly get to it anyway. Just a mess, just a total wreck. So I figured out that it was going to have to come out the sunroof hole, and that's the way it did, and I had to just bend that a little bit, but it'll bend back out and be fine. So the only thing that's going to be a problem is these drains took a little bit of a beating right here. These are plastic, and you know what the plastic is on these. It's called brachium, and that's what they do. They do the very best. So I broke 2 of them. So I'm going to have to see what I can do to replace that. I'm sure it can be replaced. The whole thing probably comes apart. So I don't have a timetable for putting that in. I have to work out a headliner situation because people are saying the headliner is different in them. So in other words, I have to find a 960 wagon or a V90 wagon headliner, I guess, to go in it, at least the shell, which means that's the part that the headliner material is glued to. And this headliner's, it's coming down anyway. I had to thumbtack it. So, but as you can see, there's a lot of stuff to come out of here to get this headliner out. You got visors, you got a mirror, you got the motor cover, you got the light, you got all those pieces around the side right there. So I kind of need to have a plan in place before I just swap this thing out. I mean, it's not a big deal to me to ride around no headliner there. I don't particularly want to do that, but if I do that, then that means I've got to do without my grab handles, and I have to just stick my visors back in temporarily, and my mirror and my light. So I'm going to be on the lookout for a, like I said, a headliner out of one of those 2 vehicles, later model vehicles. So, and you just don't, it's real hard to find a, you know, they gave a rundown of the popularity on these cars, and they said something that I agree with based on what I've seen in the junkyard, is that the 740 and the 940 were a lot more prevalent than a 760 and a 960. I guess people didn't want to pay the little extra for the 60 series, but anyway, it is what it is. So I'll keep an eye out. But I've got most everything I wanted to do to this car done. I've still got to pick up some tail lights, but got my 3rd seat in, and I'm about to put on this bar. So anyway, there's some jungle music coming. So this thing is yeah, he's already got a dose of that. So he and I, that truck up there, he and I have been having a little bit of a war here. So anyway, all right guys, well, I'll update you when I do more on this. So see you then. Thanks for watching. Okay, whew. Got my Robert DIY gloves on. That's what you use when you work on Volvos. And I'm in the middle of putting this sway bar on, so I'm still in the loosening bolt stages. So I thought I'd just go under here with you real quick and just give you a glimpse of what you can expect when you get under here on a car that hasn't had a sway bar on it. There's the 2 studs that are captive on the top. You don't have to worry about trying to keep those from turning. And there's the 2 nuts that went on those. These were a 17. The ones on the other car were a 16 millimeter. So figure that one out. But I've got the rear end supported and jack stand. You want to keep the car's weight on the suspension, because you can see this thing kind of separates a little bit whenever you take those nuts out. And so what working on now is I have to take the bolts out of the bottom shock there, mount, I guess you call it. So that one's a 17 and that's a 19 nut. They're turned around differently from the way the other car was, but hey, it's a Volvo, that's what happens. So it's better for me because I can get my impact on this one now and loosen that up. And the boy, they were tight. The ones on the other one were not that tight, but these are tight. And I wanted to also take a moment, get out of here. You know, Robert Spinner, Robert DIY, he was having so many problems with his, what happened here? Where are we? Hit the zoom button, didn't I? Anyway, he's having so many problems with his, those little adapters he was using for 1/2 inch down to a 3/8. And a long time ago, I went to Harbor Freight and bought a set of these millimeter sized chrome vanadium. Does they have a brand on them? Nope, I don't think so. It's not even, they're so generic, they only have a brand stamped in them, but I think they were probably Pittsburgh. And these are what's called impact sockets, and they are a 1/2 inch drive. And then I've also got a, this is a, I guess this is a 18 inch, 16 inch, 18 inch breaker bar. It's got a swivel. A lot of people have these, and they work great. And I take this with me every place that I go that I think I might have a issue with a tough to remove fastener. And I've yet to break one of those, and I've yet to break this thing. So I've had a bar on it and everything, and this is well worth the money, and it wasn't that much. So I would suggest to him, he probably already knows this, I'm sure. Robert's a pretty sharp guy, but I would just dispense with a 1/2 inch down to 3/8 inch adapter. I only use those in a desperate situation. I think I've got one somewhere in here in the old time toolbox, but maybe it was over here. Yeah, I've got one. I've never broke this, but like I said, I just don't use it that much. This is a AM Pro that probably came from Advance or someplace like that. I don't remember. Like I said, I haven't used it that much. So anyway, that's what I suggest doing. If you got anything that's stuck, you know, just use something like this to get it loose. And a lot of times what I found is if it's stuck enough to break an adapter, it's probably when you put something that's not going to break on it, it's probably going to break the bolt off. So dang if you do, dang if you don't, I guess. Alright, back to it. Okay, done. Let's go underneath for a look, shall we? Alright. Now to the uninitiated, if it looks like this soy bar has always been on here because it's still got its factory undercoating and stuff like that. This just blends right in. You never know it was off here, but it fit right on just the way it came off the other car. No surprises. Once again, you got where are we at here? Okay, well, right up there. See that A-shaped bracket, a V-shaped bracket, I guess you could say, whichever you like better. That's the one that you absolutely have to have off the donor car, because this car didn't have it. Most of them won't have it for any reason. So now the nuts were there. They serve some important purpose to hold the suspension together, so they're always going to be there. So all you gotta do is just reuse those. And use jack stands, and be sure you position your jack base if you use it under the rear end far ahead enough that it doesn't get in the way of that thing. I had to reposition it. So, but that was it. It's a good idea to check your shocks while you're under here. These shocks look fairly recent, but the bushings are a little sketchy. But like I said, this applies simply to a live axle rear end, like any rear end you'd find under an old American car or something, Toyota truck or rear-wheel drive vehicle. I don't know about I can't advise you about an independent rear suspension. So this was a year, like I said, this was a year that the sedans in '88 got the independent rear suspension, and the wagons kept a live axle, which is a good thing, I think. But while I was under here, I was noticing that this muffler bracket is a little bit loose. You can see that there. Looks like it's just gonna need to try to tighten that up a little bit. So I'm gonna soak her down with some PB and let it sit a little bit while I try to uncrimp this scrape right there, and go from there. We'll take it for a test drive and see how it drives. People say it makes at least a bit of a difference. So I know putting the strut on, replacing that strut, tightened everything up a whole lot. This car rides pretty firm, so I'm just expecting better things, even better things now. So happy, joy. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one.